Hello class, this is Manuel, and on this video we're gonna talk about daily routines, uh, whether yours or somebody else's. Well, this is a typical assignment that we English teachers give our students. We ask you to describe what you normally do. The reason for that is that that way you are forced to use present simple, which is one of the most basic grammar topics we have in English. So let's see. Before we discuss daily routines, let's talk about present simple. Once again, I already made a video on present simple. I made a video on pronouns. If you haven't checked those out, well, I recommend you do. Unless you're totally familiar with this, in which case, well, it's obviously not necessary. Um, let's see. Here we have a bunch of pronouns, pretty much all of them. I, you, he, she, etc. And we have the verb read, and obviously complements like every day, once a week, at home, complements of time and place. They are not really important for the example. What it is important is the verb read. Notice how in almost all cases it's the same. It's just read. I read, you read, we read, etc. Not That's not the case with he or with she or with it. In those cases, we need to add a letter S to the verb, and we end up with he reads, she reads, etc. All right. So that's pretty much all the conjugation we need to know, because in Spanish it would be an entirely different story, as you know. In Spanish, we need to worry about leo, lees, leemos, leen, etc., right? Depending on which person you're talking about. Not in English, it's only one, so it's a lot easier. But still, we need to know how to do it, because it's not always a matter of adding the extra s to the verb. In some cases, it changes. So let's see what those cases are. Here, for example, we have that in most cases, it's just a question of either adding the letter S, like the verb work, eat, play, swim, write. In those cases, if you have third person singular, like he, like she, like it, well, you just add the S, and you have something like he works, she eats, it plays, he swims, etc. Right? But in other cases, like when we have a verb that finishes with letter Y and the letter before letter Y is a consonant, we need to drop the letter Y and add IES. So it's a bit complicated, but once you get used to it, it's not. So we have things like studies, cries, tries, spies, and the spelling, as you can see, for example, in studies is STUDIES. All right, but that happens only because the letter before the letter Y, it's a consonant. If you look on first column, we have the verb play. It also finishes with Y, but the letter before is not a consonant, it's vowel A. So in that case, you just leave it as it is and add the letter S, right? Well, there are other cases, like the ones we have on third column, when we have a verb that finishes with letter O, or with the letters SH, CH, letter X, or with double S. In those cases, we also add ES, right? So we end up with things like goes, GOES, washes, WASHES, watches, WATCHES, etc. Right? Um, and that's basically those are the spelling rules of third person singular. Um, like I said, it may look complicated at the beginning, but well, after you do plenty of exercises, you get used to it, and you don't even have to think about it. Well, let's practice a little bit. So here we have the daily routine of a person, but we're telling it in first person. We're telling it from our perspective. So we have things like I get up, I take a shower, I get dressed, I have breakfast, I go to work, I start work at 9, I have lunch, I finish work, I arrive home, and I have dinner. So it's all I. Obviously, in that case, or in those cases, the verb is not going to change. So the verb is just normal: get, go, start, etc. What I want you to do is think about how would you introduce the necessary changes to make the routine, to talk about the same routine, but from a different perspective. Let's try to do this in third person singular. Let's describe the routine as he, right? Instead of saying I, how would you describe the same routine talking about him, right? So let's pause the video, think about it. If you need to write down the solutions, much better, and then we'll see. Well, ready? Well, here we go. So your solutions should look something like this. Notice how the verb get, a normal verb, we just add the letter S, and we have things like he gets up. It's different with the verb go, right? We used to have I go to work, but now he goes to work, and it's es, because obviously the verb go finishes with o. The same is true for finish. It's a verb that finishes with h, with sh, so we need es. All right. And we also have an interesting case. It's an irregular verb. I think it's the only irregular verb in present tense, and it's the verb have. And we have actually we have three examples. He has breakfast, he has lunch, and he has dinner. In those cases, it's not enough adding an s to the verb. We also need to drop letter v and letter e. So we go from having a have, which is have, to having has, which is has, right? So, but it's a special verb. It's the only regular verb, and well, that's all you need to worry about. Well, hopefully you got something out of this video, and well, I'm looking forward to reading your daily routines on the assignment. Best regards. Bye.